Come on! Oh, right away, right up top. Oh, it's you. Before we get started, thank you for the sub, Ben Dantowitz. Let's just get right into it, I guess, with that. Ben Dantowitz on the podcast today, ladies and gentlemen. Ben, we got so much to talk about. Obviously, there's been huge news over the last couple of days, to the point that I don't even think I can wait until next Friday to release this. I think I'm going to have to move it up. Obviously, we're talking about Nationals being canceled and some news out of Utah. Crazy. But before we get to that, just so that this isn't entirely a rant about Nationals, what have you been up to all of this time? You know, you're one of those people that I usually run into on the road. I think you were at every tour stop I was last year, plus a couple more locals that I didn't go to. So I think you were one of the only people more traveled than me last season. And yet I haven't seen you now in, 9 months or something crazy?
I guess even more than, right? I guess Nationals was 10 months ago, roughly, a little more than 10 months ago now.
Ridiculous.
Last tournament we were both at. Good to be sitting down with you. Pleasure to be here. And I guess pat myself on the back. I was about as well traveled as anybody last year, but no one really notices because I'm not in like the podium pictures at the end of the day. So I appreciate you recognizing that.
I always recognize the people that are willing to, put it all on the line and travel.
But I've definitely been missing that. I know we talked about saving a lot on our expenditures this year because we spend so much money on our travels.
Right.
So for the most part, I've been thankfully still gainfully employed. Fortunate enough to work a job that lets me work from a laptop remotely. So I spent a lot of time in this very room I'm in now, my bedroom in my little house in Virginia. So a lot of hours spent here, and with that, some of my roommates and I have spent a lot of hours playing a lot of different board games to pass the time and getting a little bit of roommate versus roommate round net going to get some touches in, whether that's in front of our lawn, on the street, or finding the nearest nook and cranny when parks are closed. And as things have started to open up a little bit, finding some open green spaces to actually get moving.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's.
I'm pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's been difficult. I remember when all the parks were closed by us too. It was just like, well, where am I supposed to just practice by myself right now? Like, which is why I undertook the whole, cleaning out my basement project and turning that into a practice space. Now, you've had the luxury of being able to practice with a bunch of your roommates. What kind of skill level are you working with there?
Yeah. Funny you mentioned using the basement space to practice. So for those who don't know, I live with my older brother Ezra, who's also solid talent, round net wise at least. Other things give and take, but he's been a really good roommate to have, and also a round net trainer to have, where we can just pop out and get some touches in. Right. Whether that's doing a quick little drill or having someone that's willing to catch serves for you if you want to rip serves for intervals back and forth. And we used to do a little bit of goofing off. We had a little like basement playroom of sorts, but we actually traded our basement playroom for another roommate right at the turn of the stay-at-home in the form of Anthony Wrench. Just a humongous blast from the past.
Yeah.
So, as far as those two are concerned, I've been super lucky having two really capable rounded athletes, and my two other roommates. I don't know if you tuned in or if anyone here was able to watch some of the Spikeball Spike at Home corn stream stuff.
Yeah. I saw that. I wasn't able to tune in, so
that's why I was curious. We popped over to a little park with those two guys, and then our other roommate Pat, who actually I think he smashed on one of your Spike and Smash streams.
Is he the one that you had on and you guys were like flipping off the controller?
Yeah, Pat's just an absolute blast. And he and I went to college together. We played a tournament way back, and he is an absolute stud of an athlete. So he's able to just fly around and be moving. From the technique side of things, obviously hard to compete with some of his other roommates, but he loves playing too. And then one of my other roommates, Matt, probably even the most like fit person in the house. So I'm just an absolute dweeb of an athlete. And I only can count on my rounded expertise when we're playing around it to keep up. All five of us have been playing around it in all sorts of permutations, actually. Just got off of playing with everybody except for Ezra. All of us were just hopping over to a park, getting some touches in, having a blast. So it's been really lucky to have bunch of people who are active and play happy to keep hitting spike balls, even if I'm not really getting tournament reps or anything super crazy intensive.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're lucky in the fact that you also just have 5 people to draw on too. Like, I mean, I'm in a house, full of people that are very into spike ball, but like at our best we have 3. So you
Right.
can't even get a game going if you're just gonna stick to your house. Um,
Yeah.
and that hasn't happened at all. So
Definitely felt
it's
super
really
fortunate in that regard.
right.
Uh, you know, usually, people range from my situation to maybe not wanting to be left at home in the house with whatever the roommate situation might be. So I've been
Yeah.
super, super grateful for my guys that I'm living with.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like you got, good people there too. Obviously, your brother. I mean, Anthony Wrench. He's made a national finals. That's something I can't even say I've done. So, you've got some talent there to work with too, which is
Yeah,
good.
I've at least like made the national finals observing it now, but you're just
Yeah. You've
you're
definitely
just you're just
been.
you're just over there playing third place games. Like, come on.
Yeah, you've been closer to that net than I have. That's for sure. I guess that is factually accurate. Oh Lord. What's been your make out of everything? Over the last couple of months. What's been the ups and downs since San Francisco got
Oh
canceled back in
gosh.
March?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm sure I can agree that most people would say it's felt like an eternity.
Like, kind of
Just
has been.
waiting for the season to start and never really starting. I pretty quickly wrote off most things. I remember I was gonna help run a Virginia Beach high school regional tournament, maybe early mid-April, as part of the high school series,
Hmm.
and pretty quickly when I saw San Francisco was going to be canceled, it was like, okay, we're probably not going to do this. Like, this just doesn't seem very important in the grand scheme of things. And then looking down the barrel of the East Roundnet series and uh, how unpredictable everything was, just like, okay, let's I don't know, suspend things or postpone indefinitely. Who knows? And then kind of just taking that step by step, and ultimately, it's like June, July, and I'm like, wait, I haven't really said anything, but we should probably just not have any tournaments through this year.
Right.
So that's been weird. And as far as the ups and downs, I mean, uh, I've definitely had a hard time, being for the most part home. I'm not the maybe sneakily not the most social person, but I do very well when I've got people in proximity to me, and
Right.
I've been pretty cut off lately. So um, definitely just trying to make do with the situation I have and socialize as I can and keep in touch with people as I can. But I'm really, really terrible at it if I don't have proximity as a crutch. So
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
been hard for myself at least. What's
yeah.
your situation been like? I know you lost a roommate, Dylan went away, and then he came back. You and Kathy have been at home for the duration though, right?
Yeah, no, we've both been here, the entire time. She actually left her job in early November, late November, I forget. But now she
Oh
works,
yeah,
full time
she's
for
kicking
herself
tail.
from home. Yeah, no, I mean she's crushing life, and business is good, and it was so interesting because she held on to that job so much because she wanted to she wanted that consistency, and she wanted to know that, like, she always had a job. And then 3 months after she does this, like, everyone at her former job got furloughed. She worked at a gym,
Yeah,
so those were the first
yeah,
things to cancel. And she was
absolutely.
like, "Oh, this is crazy. Like, I actually have more job security working entirely for myself and not for someone else, because they can't tell me I can't make money online right now. Like, they can't tell me
Yeah,
that I can't train somebody online." So,
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so that was kind of fun to go through. But then in general, like, I mean, Kathy and I have, kind of built our lives around our traveling. And so when you take that out of the equation,
Yeah. Oh
our
gosh.
our lives get very, very different. And so we, not only were we figuring out how to, like, both be working from home constantly, but also, like, now what is that when there aren't even these breaks
Yeah, I know you would
for
usually
her
take
traveling?
those weeks to Cali for the tournaments where you'd be like, I can just take the week because I'm working for Chris.
R-
So
right,
it's like, what do I
exactly.
do for fun now?
I know. So yeah, I mean, that's been a lot of it, and I mean, honestly, it's been tough. Like, I realized how much of my identity I had wrapped up in the fact that I travel to compete in spikeball tournaments, and
Yeah, I hear that. Where
left with no option to do that. You're like,
I
who the hell am I?
yeah, I definitely had that same kind of crisis of this conversation I have with like the average local at a tournament asking me like, wait, where are you from? Oh, you're from 1,000 miles away. Like, you flew here?
Right.
Oh. wow, do you really like this? And I always come back with like oh, I go around to tournaments for fun. Like I've identified this as one of my favorite things to do, and going to another one week after week doesn't make them less fun. So I'm going to continue to do that. It's
Right.
what I do for fun. So yeah,
Right.
having that just kind of collapses a really, really small problem to have in the grand scheme of things, but has still been something that I've had to be like, okay, well, what do I like about round night tournaments? How can I take some of those things that I enjoy so much and find them in other things that I can do,
Right.
um, in the comfort of my house. So
Yeah. I mean,
that's been a challenge.
yeah, no, I mean, and it certainly has been challenging, for me. I think I'm ultimately more of an introverted person than an extroverted person, but given zero opportunity to be extroverted at these tournaments or anything like that, I think like really became
Oh
detrimental.
yeah.
Like I think
Yeah,
I
you need
like
that. You need that stimulus so you can actually balance out. Otherwise, you're just always holed up.
right. And so I'm like, all right, yeah, I guess I just like go around my house and take care of day-to-day things and go on the internet and do spikeball things while listening to 8 hours of podcasts a day. And it's like, okay, like I don't know, it got old very quickly. And
Yeah.
so, and again, like I had to just figure out like I was going much more into the like in the off season. I was like, all right, I'm going full on into like athlete mode more as like a means of like
Yeah.
the business of Seahorn Spikes, and like I'm gonna really focus on sponsorship and just that whole side of things. I'm gonna train my ass off. I'm gonna
Right.
do that, and
Yeah. I
and
recall
then
hearing you talk about like your whole season reset where you like initially got 2 months right for the first push and you like were like
right.
I'm gonna train hard. Um, what else were things you like were doing early in March, April where you're like, wow, I've got all this time to like work on me. Like what's something you did maybe then that maybe you aren't doing right now, or maybe you're
Well,
doing.
yeah. So I think initially I really got into that, and then somewhere in there it kind of lapsed. I think like I got a little bit more on the like depressed side, and really I was just like, the hell do I do? Like because I was sitting there going like, all right, I'm gonna train super super hard, but there's no guarantee that this season's coming back. It's looking worse and worse every day. What's the point of doing this all now? I may as well do something else. What am I supposed to do about money in the meantime? Like none of that becomes an option. So I took a step back from that. And I think I spent like 2 months just like not being happy, but just like going through the motions of that kind of stuff and
Yeah.
like finding a workout here or there, hitting up against a wall every once in a while,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and in the meantime, like taking on some huge project like cleaning out the basement. But like I'd spend a week doing that, and just spread it out over days. I probably could have done it in two, but you didn't want to run out of activities during quarantine. So, but then
Oh gosh. Yeah.
but then I think about a month ago, yeah, about a month ago for sure, I was like, the move right now is to really get into the the content side of things. And so I was like, what do I do with that? And I was like, I don't want to produce like a bunch of YouTube videos and get into the editing bay and just sit there. Like I don't find a lot of enjoyment doing that, and I already wasn't enjoying what was going on. But this
Mhm.
idea of doing this podcast came through, and I was like, that's what I actually want. I want to be going to tournaments and talking to people. Like that's when I'm at my best, when we're like just shooting the shit and talking about the future of our sport, and that's like the hopeful end of things in my life. But I'm not getting any of that. So it was like, oh, if I just have a podcast and I talk about this with people, like
Yeah. Force
maybe
yourself to schedule these conversations.
right, like
Yeah.
schedule some conversations and actually gain some momentum from it. And I mean, after recording the first one, I was just like, yes, this is exactly what I need to be doing right now. And then that
That's great.
begot a whole bunch of other things. It was like, oh shit, I probably need to get cover art for the podcast. Oh shit, I probably need to figure out how to like edit in Premiere. Okay, so I gotta spend a lot of
Nice.
time doing that. And so it it kind of became a momentum builder for it, which has been good. And
Yeah,
then
that's sweet.
again, I just feel more connected to the community now because like I just didn't have a lot to say before other than like I'm sad we're not playing tournaments. And then people would go to tournaments and
Yep.
post highlight videos, and I was like, okay,
That looks fun.
yeah, that looks fun, but I'm not doing that. So,
Yeah.
I was kind of jealous and in some regards, and it was fun to watch, but I couldn't really like tune in for a whole tournament. Like there was just too much FOMO. I've gotten a little bit better about that now. I think I'm like scratching the itch a little bit more now. I feel like I can watch
Yeah.
some games going on right now.
There are a lot of different like lenses of like watching tournaments when you're not going to tournaments, and
Right.
like, well, I'm not. They're gonna do the tournament if I don't watch, right? So I'm gonna watch, and I think I'm just gonna get that benefit, and I'm not causing any extra like encouragement or enabling of X or Y behaviors. So
Right.
I'll do this for me. That's fine.
Yeah.
Am I gonna like share all these like, YouTube videos of people going to tournaments or like promote signups? Not so much, I don't think. And I don't think I know for me, some people have asked me about like free agents for tournaments, and it's like I don't have my finger on the pulse for that right now.
Right.
That's not where my energy is. So
Yeah.
just
I mean,
doing what makes sense to you.
no,
What keeps you sane?
that's actually super interesting because yeah, you always seem to know somebody good who was looking for you know, a partner for some tournament or another, and
To
now
that end,
you're
I love it. Like I absolutely love talking about mashups and being like, "Oh, Chris, dude, you gotta play with my buddy. Like you gotta play with this guy."
right.
It's so yeah, kind of like turning off the jets, and similarly, I'm really stoked for you. You've identified this podcast as something that like lets you be in a space you want to be in. For me, I haven't really put a ton of time into like figuring out what I want that to be. I think right now, as things have started opening up, I've started playing a little more locally, like just beyond my household, and a couple other interactions with my buddy Josh Kaplan, who's
Mm-hmm.
local, and another huge blast from the past. Eric Zishka is now local to the DMV.
Oh, right.
So
Forgot about that.
we got a little like quarantine pod group of sorts, and we're playing in masks, and like that makes me oh so happy. I think the first time I played with Josh was maybe around like July 10th. Like that was like not even a month ago, and
Right.
feels like we've been playing, normal pickup. Hopefully my roommates don't ever listen to this, but the ones that aren't have never qualified for Premier. It's just very different pickup. I'm sure you can
Oh
relate.
yeah. Yeah. No,
Um, so
there's different levels of pickup, and there's no comparison for actual tournament play. You know what I mean? So there's
yeah, absolutely.
there's definitely levels to all of
But
that.
but uh, but yeah, getting some like Premier-ish level pickup has been definitely good enough, and the benefit of that and comparing that to going to tournaments is I don't see a huge difference in at least the exercise side of things. Obviously, you can't replace the social side of it,
Right.
but from the rounded side of it, I'm absolutely thrilled about that, and from the organizing and partner matching and just overall whisper rumoring kind of side of things, kind of just putting a pause on that for now. It's kind of hard to be as engaged in when I'm not really into it.
Right. No, so you said you've also played with a mask. I have not been brave enough to do that. I've gone to practices and just practiced with the Origin guys a couple of times, but I've
Mm-hmm.
personally kept my practices to under 10 people and like once a week so that
Yeah,
if things do happen, like I at least know whether or not I was exposed. I at least know it was limited or not. Just trying to keep that down a little bit, but
yeah, absolutely.
the prospect of playing in a mask seemed impossible to me. What's your take
Yeah. Oh
on how
gosh,
easy that is?
it's gonna be such a soapbox moment. I did a little polling on this yesterday because it's just like I wanted to get some insights and opinions,
Yeah.
and also maybe facts. But yeah, I've got like these cloth masks that bless Matt's mom, one of my roommates, made for us. So thank you, Mama Matt, and yeah, those have worked super well day to day. Little grocery run here, drop something off at FedEx there, etc.
Right.
And we played in those masks a couple of times. The first few times we played with Josh, and the big thing is those tie around like our heads. They're not like the ear loop ones. And the biggest thing for me has been like neck stiffness, where I feel like I can't like turn my head as much because you got to kind of have your head on a swivel when you're tracking sets on defense. If you ever
Right.
try to at least attempt it. And I was pretty sore there, so we all kind of collectively went in on some Adidas athletic masks, and those have been nice because those have the ear loops, but they're like lighter as far as they're like a athletic material. I don't know, but they're
Yeah.
mask,
They're
appropriate.
breathable.
They're mask appropriate. And from like a play side of things, um, I've heard some takes that like you can't. I think you and Andrew might have been talking about how you didn't feel like you can be playing like hard like hard if you're in a mask.
Yeah.
And I couldn't comment because I haven't played in a tournament, but I think I'm able to move about as hard as I'm gonna move, and I've done at least some like high level reading. I'm definitely not an epidemiologist, but it seems like for what it inhibits, it might also at the same time give you the effect of training your body to make the most use of the oxygen that you are getting in. If you're getting percentages less oxygen, but you can breathe fine in masks. For anybody that hasn't gone to like a grocery store for 15 minutes, like you're not coming out of the grocery store wheezing.
Yeah.
I've spent a couple of encounters where I had to be masked up for like hours at a time, and it was definitely weird because most of my life I haven't done that, but it's possible. Definitely a mindset thing. Just like knowing I want to do something and realizing that it's definitely more comfortable and easier to play without the mask, but I appreciate the masks seem to be pretty OP in what they've been able to prevent in the way of transmitting viral particles.
Yeah, I mean, definitely no way to argue with that point there. My biggest fear is like I have 2 deviated septums, so I'm a big mouth breather, and especially when I compete. So I have a lot of like in and out just from my mouth. I like can't circular breathe all that well. So like just from like that standpoint, like I mean, obviously, when I'm going to the grocery store, like I'm a healthy guy. I'm fine. I'm not winded or anything.
I wasn't speaking to that condition, so I appreciate that catch. But yeah, I think the best advice I'd have is Spikeball with like they paired with Savage for like these like fancy spike buffs. I'm sure you saw those.
Yeah,
I think those aren't like pretty sure those aren't like CDC approved material. So I was kind of disappointed that no one was calling them masks, but they were being marketed as if they were masks,
right?
With like cloth. But you can tuck some things into the face mask or into the buff to like add layers of protection, and you should be pretty good. And the big bonus there is like your air from like your nose down to your like neck.
Right.
If you're listening on the podcast, not watching the YouTube video, you should get a lot more airflow that way versus like the mask that's over your nose and mouth and is like looped in under your chin. Like there's not as much airflow there. So that's the only tip I can add there. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think the big thing is we're all making choices. We're all trying to maximize benefit and minimize risk, right? And no one wants there to be a pandemic. No one wants so many people to be getting sick and dying, and so many people being affected negatively. And it's kind of the reality we're trying to at this point just mitigate. So
it's
about all I've got on masks.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we can go right into that transitioning to nationals being canceled in light of this global pandemic. Talking about things that we never wanted to happen. It also isn't the first time that nationals has been canceled, but I don't think we're going to get an email 3 hours after saying like JK actually.
Oh my gosh. Here. Oh, Chris, I didn't, when nationals were canceled the first time, I immediately started eating ice cream that morning.
I remember.
And yesterday, was it yesterday afternoon, midday? I think I like wasn't all over Facebook. To be fair, I wasn't like tracking to see if nationals going to get canceled with a rainstorm yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was about 1:00 yesterday, 1 Central anyway.
No, I must have been like not on Facebook at the time because I remember checking a couple hours later. I think I saw the Utah side of things too, but I did have a bunch of ice cream last night though, so I guess if that's not too late and you'll accept it.
I mean, you got to eat your feelings,
Yeah, just a little bit, just to as long as you're mindfully eating your feelings.
Right, mindfully eating our feelings.
Yeah, I'm like, I am sad. I am going to eat a pint of ice cream. I'm still kind of sad.
I mean, a pint's pretty low grade for you. You guys have been known to go above and beyond a pint.
I guess that's been a huge point for me in quarantine. So my like initial project was we all got in a big fitness kick where we borrowed some gym equipment from a gym that closed and did like lawn workouts. So we were doing like cutesy like CrossFit type workouts on our front yard. Mm-hmm. And I got in better shape for the bend bar is very low, but I got in some pretty good shape and started eating, not as trashy as I might have a reputation for, but yeah, again, bar very low, still probably very trashy, but I made some good progress there. So I think that's been, even if I'm not getting a lot of reps on my running game, I've been very excited with the idea of being a more holistic athlete and not just doing the training side of things, trying to do the whole thing right.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've definitely done a bit of that too, where you've gotten a lot fitter through the years.
Yeah, no, I mean I've gone through extremes, and I mean that one off season between 2017 and 2018.
Was that the six pack cut year?
Yeah, that was the 8 week. I'm getting a six pack. God damn it.
Nice.
And it worked. That was great. That was overkill. No one has to do that. That I mean, I went
I
to
think
like
it's a good way to like say I
competition
can do this
lengths.
though and prove it to yourself.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
hey, if I can do this, I could probably do things that are actually functional and minor.
right. Well, yeah. Like at some point, like afterwards, I was doing so much like high intensity interval training and stuff like that, and Kathy has me doing burpees, and I was just working on a lot more of like the cardio end of things instead of
Yeah.
just like because beforehand I only did strength training, so I was
Right.
only
Right.
lifting heavy, and so it was just this idea of like, oh yeah, if I trained like this, like maybe I wouldn't be so shy to like dive on defense and like get down in the dirt and like get back up quickly and then like hit something.
Mhm.
Whereas before it was just like, oh, I'm this big guy and I just got to try and like block the ball and stay up and like so. Yeah, I definitely got a lot more from that. Definitely learned a lot about just properly fueling yourself with food too.
Yeah.
definitely don't eat like overly clean or anything like that. And honestly, it became hard because like at one point in there, I was eating super clean, but I was eating like 3,200 calories. And so when you're
Oh
doing
wow.
that, you just have to eat massive amounts of food because you're like, all right, I need to get all my carbs from like this sweet potato. But this
Yeah.
sweet potato is only like 300 calories, but I got to eat this whole honkin' sweet potato.
Yeah,
So,
that's not calorie efficient there. That is volume efficient for sure.
right,
I
but like I could eat 3 Oreos and get the same amount of carbs, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
tough.
it's a trade-off. It's an interesting side of.
I've never tracked like all my macros or calories in particular. One thing I did do when I was rehabbing my arm last year was I did track protein.
Mhm.
I think it was I was trying to do a gram per pound to like really go on the heavy end of it and
Mhm.
just bulk and like while I was doing PT like just throw protein at my body so I could build muscle up. And yeah, that would be like protein shakes like double, triple servings, putting like 80 grams, and then like eating like, like doing like chicken meal prep and like eating like,
Yeah.
like having like 100 grams of protein in a dinner that consisted of like a protein shake and like chicken with like some rice.
Yeah.
Like the nutrients weren't all there, but it was like, honestly, we can be kind of narrow minded for like a month and we'll be okay.
Yeah, no, I just realized how like not sustainable that was. I was like, I couldn't
Yeah.
be doing what I'm doing right now if I was like traveling and competing. But it's the off season. This is a goal for me. I'm gonna do it.
Absolutely.
Um, but I found ways to clean up my diet at least a little bit on the road and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm
Speaking of that road, though, I know you wanted
yeah,
to pivot to nationals. I'm curious, are you
yeah,
definitely not going to play in Utah? What are your thoughts, I guess, overall
yeah,
after talk about your thoughts for Chris?
yeah. This one's been difficult. I part of me when I saw it got initially really excited as a reaction. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of other people
that's
did
super
too.
fair.
And I think like especially because I mean I just had Taylor on the podcast. I'm sure you listened to it. Like
Of course. Hey, I'm a big fan of the podcast, Chris.
yeah, like
It's a pleasure to be here.
yeah, I I love what he's doing with the sport, and more than anything, like it's what I've been like yelling at the community for 2 years of like we have to just stop yelling that things need to be different, and somebody's got to do something. You want something to
Absolutely.
be different, do something about it. You want to prove that like this is how you run a tournament, go run a tournament and prove concept.
Hmm.
Um, and he's been like the quintessential example of someone who just goes like, all right, I'm taking this on. I'm willing to take on the financial risk of doing this.
Hmm.
I don't need Spikeball support. I'm working alongside them, but I'm not relying on them to do anything. Like he's like I'm gonna buy all my own sets and furnish all my own tournaments and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Like he just took initiative and he's already created like a business that is actually making money. And so I applaud all of that stuff, and I applaud the idea of trying to come up with a solution for something that the community really wants right now, which is they want to play a national tournament like we all do.
Yeah.
I'm dying for it. Um, and so I think my initial reaction was like, God, just again, he's stepping up and doing something. But at the end of the day, like I, uh, I just want to be clear after all of that, like unequivocally, I think this is a mistake, and I do not recommend that anybody go to this tournament, nor will I be going to this tournament unless somehow COVID magically turns around within a month. But we've been waiting for it to magically turn around this month, next month, and
Yeah.
there's nothing in place right now that seems like that's going to be the case. So, unequivocally, like I don't recommend anybody go. I mean, I'm not going to these, local events and stuff like that. There's a tournament next weekend in Chicago, like King of the Quarantine. I'm not a part of it. I'm not going. Like, absolutely not. So then the idea of like flying to Utah about it, I'm not there.
Yeah, it's tricky. And I imagine you're coming in a similar calculus than I am of like I could, so the benefit's obvious. Everyone's on the same page about that, but the risk, okay. I could maybe go and then quarantine as I like come back and quarantine myself. So I'm the only one assuming risk for going to this event. But even still, it's like you're also leaning into it as like a statement that you feel like you're making, where a lot of people are looking to see what other people are doing, and you've got a lot of eyes on you.
Right.
So
I mean,
I land to the same decision point of I don't want to go, and at the same time, and I won't go, but at the same time, I also want to still be in the conversation of, hey, so I can't stop this tournament from happening. Maybe everybody could wear masks when they play. What are some things I can help push the needle on that would make this lower risk than it is, assuming, whatever baseline risk is going to happen if I just take a nap for 6 months.
right.
Trying to have a positive effect on things that you might be able to have a positive effect on, where, you've got a voice around a community and you should use it, the same way you say, hey, we've got these problems, we got a solution. I think there's some problematic elements to having people fly in from all over the country.
Yeah. Well,
there's also a lot of fun elements, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm here to tell anybody what to do with their life. Like I'm choosing the word recommend strongly, and very intentionally. Like, I highly recommend that you do not go to this. I'm also of the mind that, like,
Yeah,
I can't prevent this tournament from happening either. But I also think that, especially with this being planned in advance of them canceling the tournament, so that the day they cancel the tournament, they could
yeah.
come out with it. Like, good PR move, but it's
Oh, great.
also,
I think it's great PR. I think,
but
like,
but but it's also
of course,
but it's also preying on people's hopes for this right now. And so
and like
everyone goes,
emotions
"Oh
there.
my
Yeah,
God, it is back. I can do
yeah.
that. I can go buy my flight right now and go."
That's true.
And
It's I think it's good for the same reason it's not so good.
yeah.
I would just to say, I don't think, like, for me, I don't think I'm saying like I don't recommend you go. I think for me, I'm saying like, hey, I am just reading like what the CDC says about what large gatherings mean and how it's a high risk thing, and
Right.
encourage everybody to just read what the CDC says about large gatherings, where it's like, hey, you got people coming from different states, like, that's really high risk, and it's probably a bad idea. I think obviously we're in a roundnet bubble where we know quite a bit about roundnet, but I think it's kind of wild to think that you could connect almost every contiguous 48 states based on the last like 4 months of roundnet tournaments that have happened. I think that's
Yeah.
unbelievable in a not so good way.
Yeah. I think it just speaks to the risk that this actually undertakes. And
Like, you're
that's
not just going to nationals, is I guess my pitch. You're going to potentially you're going to some sort of asymptomatic spread from weeks prior.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing there too. And again, like, I'm not here to tell everyone how to live their life, and and I also recognize that things are different all over the country. The problem is that, like, if you want to use the argument that, like, locally things aren't bad right now, so I'm going to follow local guidelines, this is now no longer local. Like, it is by
Yeah,
definition a national tournament. So,
yeah,
like, I've been, pretty quiet about all of these events going on, even though I know that there are people from out of state going. Like, technically it's like, oh, this tournament in Ohio is run by Ohio, and there's some people going, and how are you supposed to really prevent that? And Spikeball hasn't been endorsing it, which I think has been good, but with this, like, it's the stated expression for everyone to come from out of region. These aren't outliers. This isn't like, oh, well, 1% of the people are going to be from outside of Utah. Like, the majority of people will be from outside of Utah. And I think that that's a major problem.
I would caution you to bet against Sanford on that one. But yeah, I hear the sentiment.
I mean, that's true, obviously. I mean, he's been good at, driving Utah numbers. And I think I'm on the very conservative end of these things when it comes to my willingness to put myself at risk and go to these larger events. But I think there's an argument to be made for what Taylor was doing in Utah, where he's running a Utah tour stop. It caters to Utah people. I wasn't a fan of the Spike House integrating with that. I really wish that they wouldn't have done that. But again, like, that's their call, and at least it was like fewer people. But this just seems like it's a whole nother thing where I'm like, I don't think I could be quiet about this. Like, I don't think I can sit here and be like, well, go do what you want to do. Cause like, it's just at some point it's becoming a little bit too reckless for me to say nothing.
I just really, I think the biggest thing is everyone wants the best for the sport. I think when you're talking about the different angles and perspectives in the community, and
yeah.
I think we've been really lucky that, thus far there hasn't been any major concern as far as events having any at least documented cases.
Right.
And, if you look at like a worst case scenario of one of these events is like, oh, lots of people got sick from this event. That's not good press from that angle, on top of, the actual human toll that can take
right
at varying levels. So,
yeah, I mean, I think
if you want to take everything else out of it, it's like, hey, maybe not great PR. If you want to just like get really cynical.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with that. And I think that the people that were excited about this were initially very vocal about it. And I think the people that were less excited about it, like me, didn't say anything last night. And I didn't post about it. I didn't call Taylor up. I didn't do anything, but I really thought about it. And today I went through and like read the Utah Round Net website and looked at all the things they were doing. And like on paper, it's like, okay, we're putting in these precautions and people are going to have to do this, this, and this. But I just don't think a lot of that's going to be actually enforceable. And I know, like, being on the board, I'm privy and just having conversations with people at Spikeball Inc. Like, I'm privy to all the things that they looked into in order to try and make this a reality.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they surely did not want to cancel nationals.
Yeah, like, they didn't put their finger in the air and say like, we're going to cancel nationals. That's
right. And this wasn't a cold business decision. Like, this was literally a decision like for the players, for the community, for the sake of public safety. And this wasn't a business decision. Like, they could have made money doing something like this. There's so much pent up demand. Like, nationals probably would have exploded if they decided to run it, and they were like, no, we're going to.
It was going to be in Florida too. I heard Florida was going to have just 1 million teams. That's what I always hear about Florida tournaments, right?
Yeah, first
SRA tournament in Florida. Are you kidding me, Chris?
We did have co-ed nationals in Florida, so it's not the first SRA, but
right.
But either way,
the first SRA tournament,
right? This was not a decision that was taken lightly. And I mean, I was talking with employees there who were saying that, they were looking at what the NBA was doing and looking at what the NHL was doing and seeing like what if that was possibly replicatable, and whether that was replicatable for, a grand event like we always do, or for 400 teams, or for something smaller. And it really just came down to like, it's not practical, and it's not practical to be able to follow all of those guidelines locally, nationally, given what we know about the virus at this point. I think that like it's hard for this to not kind of just this announcement to like just fly in the face of that a little bit. Like, I don't know how Spikeball feels about it, but I didn't even initially feel like this, but I talked to some other people, and I was like, Yeah, it's like, all right, you guys weren't able to figure it out, but I did. And I don't think
It's
that's
like,
what it is because, again, at the end of the day, like, I know Taylor Sanford has really good intentions here. And I know he actually cares about people, and I know he cares about the community, and I know he just wants to deliver a good time for everybody.
absolutely.
I don't think there's any malintent here, but, like, I just don't think this is smart. And I can't get behind this one. I stand behind Sanford and his vision writ large for the sport, but, like, I think this is a
Yeah.
misstep here.
I think I just would challenge you and everybody who has an opinion in favor or not in favor of having one event or not event, to just try to seek out these like hard conversations where you're not talking to someone who agrees with you, because Chris and I are now talking to each other and we're like, yeah, that's a good point, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, you're so smart. Talk to people who don't see the same thing as you, and try to do it in productive ways is the best thing I can offer, because that's half the problems that we have in the modern day is we disagree with people and then we don't talk to them.
Right.
So I know I'm not the best at that either, so that's
Yeah.
something I have to work on too, and I'll definitely try to seek out some conversations with people who are really gung-ho about going to Utah in a couple of months, or I guess a month and a half. That's kind of wild too,
Yeah.
because I forgot that like I was going to be in Chicago this time next week. I was probably going to
Yep.
crash on that little couch bed behind you.
You probably were.
um, but yeah, here we are, end of the regular season calendar, and not a tournament in the book.
Yeah, which is just I mean it's just sad. Like I had a lot of goals for this year and I was looking forward to it so much. And again, I just want to reiterate that like nobody wants a tournament to come back more than me except for maybe you. Like literally. Like we want these tournaments back
Yeah. Oh man,
so
that's a
badly.
fun top 20 list. Who wants tournaments back the most?
Right. And again, like I think I actually want them back more than the people who are deciding to go to
We're just
tournaments
going to
right now.
tournaments. Yeah.
Like I literally think I want it more than them. I just
Yeah. One thing I'm thinking about, I know, like with the local scenes, like I just want to get out the local game too. Like I can't like go up and play with random people now. It's not like
mhm.
it's like, oh, I see people at the park, like, oh, I want to go like tell them to join my pickup game on the app, but that's just not a thing we're doing right now. Where it's like, hey, well, most of the things that I really get joy and energy from,
Mhm.
they just don't make sense right now, and I kind of just have to pause.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
it's hard.
mean, I mean even with even just with practicing in general, like a bunch of Origin teams went up to the Livonia tournament 2 weekends ago. And that's a decision that's entirely
We got to,
theirs
yeah,
theirs
we
to
got
make.
to, Chris. Hold on. Are they Origin teams or are they Club Spike teams now?
Who knows? Our group chat is officially Chicagoland. I'm not.
Okay,
I'm no longer in charge of Origin. I've handed the reins off to Wyatt.
right.
And I mean, in light of COVID, like it didn't make a lot of sense to put in a bunch of structure and try to figure out where this
As far
goes.
as like club dues, no one's really putting anything in right now.
Right. So it was like, okay, that's just a project for another day. So yeah, I guess it's a Chicago practice, if you will. But
Okay,
but now I haven't gone for 2 weeks because I decided to quarantine from them. Like
right.
there were just too many states exposed at that
Yeah,
tournament where I was like, I can't mentally get over that myself. Now I'm saying I'm imposing that on myself, and I'm not saying everyone else has
yeah,
to. That's not what my state is telling me to do. It's not what my political party's telling me to do. It's not any of that. But yeah, like those are the things that you get, excited about. Like I wanted to grow those numbers. I want to be practicing all the time. I'd love to run into some people at the park, like you said, and like invite them to our practices and stuff like that. That's just not where we're at, unfortunately. So I think that's where like I've also kind of turned my mind over to like the content creation side and like how can I create some content that might invite people into the competitive scene
yeah,
at a time when like it is back to full force and fully thriving.
yeah. You like
Um,
you gotta get your contact list going. Be like, hey,
yeah,
I'll hit you up and we'll do some training, when things are more appropriate.
right. Yeah, I mean, well, I think there's a little bit of that, but also just in general, like, just it exposing people who just own a set anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, to the side of like there is a competitive angle for this. And I think like so a week ago, I think that really hit me. I'll brag for a second, but I didn't do anything. Spikeball posted a TikTok about a week ago, and it was the rally. It was the rally from Wabi Sabi and Vengeance in Lancaster, the one with the really long get in there.
One of the top plays.
Right, exactly. So they posted that on TikTok. Organically, within 7 days, it had over 20 million views.
Yeah.
Like, literally crazy. And I'm just like, so now 20 million people have at least seen the fact that, like, there's a competitive angle to this sport. And I think that's cool. And now it's like, how do you start inviting those people into it? So, of course, I see those numbers. I go, I should probably get on TikTok. So so I'm on TikTok. You can follow me. I've got one that's got like 3,500 views. I feel pretty good about that. I'm dabbling in reels.
That's got to be that's got to be Dabber's peak on Instagram. Like 3,000 views. That's got to be our peak.
Yeah. And then, I'm dabbling on Instagram with reels, which is, their version of trying to kill TikTok. I figure throw it up in 2 locations. Why not?
Sure.
But yeah, just putting some things out there right now. And I think that's one thing that the community's done really, really well over this quarantine period, whether it's all the HTR content that came out, like they started a podcast, these how-to videos. I mean, the how-to out of Texas on the reverse cut we're already seeing that pay off just everywhere. Like, people have already figured out how to do it in like 4 weeks, and I'm sitting here still haven't hit one. But that's to be expected. It took me I think it took me 2 years to like actually have a cut serve, and it's still not that great right now, but it's coming along. At least better than before. So I'll have the reverse cut in 2023. But
I've kind of for myself lost my cut serve in quarantine. It's been kind of tough.
You lost your contact point. That's the worst.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I do have my like nice low topspin 2016 serve back, and at least the people at Pickup don't have much to say about that yet, so that's fun.
Well,
it would be great to get the cut serve going again.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, but I think
at first, who knows? Who cares?
Yeah, right. But I think that that's where I am personally investing my energy, and where I also just want to encourage people to invest theirs as well. Like, we've come a long way. Like, we've already now we have 3 podcasts going. And hopefully someone creates another one from another angle and does something else that's really cool. Hopefully people just start putting up old matches and commentating them. Like,
I think at least 4, if I can shout out, what HTR was doing a podcast, Beyond the Realms doing a podcast, and Y-Spike has some sort of podcast.
Oh, that's right. Y-Spike is doing their stuff too.
So just giving some love in case you didn't have. You were probably thinking of the 3 ones that aren't yours because you're selfless.
Yeah, no, obviously I wasn't.
I'm going to shout you out too. Let's Go is also a sick podcast.
Wow,
so
thanks.
Don't forget that one.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. But yeah, I mean, I think all that's been cool. And frankly, like, Texas has been killing it now too. Like, they've been doing their own like Gold League stuff, and that's all like local, which I think is cool. They've really doubled down on just like growing locally right now, which, you can. Again, I'm not focused on like growing Chicago right now per se in terms of like the number of people I'm practicing with, but the idea that like at least you're focusing on building something for the future that's not this national scene, like, that's good. And again, like, they've invested in streaming this stuff, they've invested in a podcast, they've invested in Twitch, like, they're just doing a bunch of really cool stuff too. And like, I would love to see everyone go more that route, and just like, here's the Ohio guys putting out some sick Ohio stuff. Here's the
I don't think it
Florida
needs to be
guys.
the same route. I think just doing something. I know for me, I'm just kind of chilling.
Yeah.
Like, I know I did like, I used to do like some streams where it was just like talking about superlatives or top players, and just like a lot of that was just like, oh, let's preview this tournament because I probably got a lot to say about like the advanced division that no one really knows players, or whatever it might be. Or we did like some call-ins where we had people call in and talk about players, and we just goof around. But yeah, those are a little bit trickier to do when most of that was tournament event dependent.
Yeah, well, that's
now
what
now it's a little more like, hey, I don't really want to put out content of like, we're doing some pickup, and it's okay.
Yeah.
We'll keep putting the flops out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously clip the flops and put them on Instagram. Everyone needs that.
Like, people talk about, hey, this sport's competitive. We're like, also, this sport can be aspirationally competitive.
Right. Oh God, just so true. But yeah, I mean, part of why I didn't stream for like the first 3 months is I was just like, well, the stream format that I do is so dependent on
Yeah, exactly.
filling in what happened last weekend and talking about what's happening next weekend and previewing that and sharing some hot takes. Like, what am I supposed to share hot takes on right now? Like, everything is so crazy. And again, like, I had also just taken a personal stance that like I wasn't going to be hyping up these tournaments. I wasn't
Yeah,
really going to,
absolutely.
promote them or say go sign up. Um, and that's my own personal choice there. But yeah, so I was like, so what the hell do I do for content? Like, and Spikeball in the early days of the pandemic when they did the whole like five
The
streams for
spike
the
at homes.
community, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, the Spike at homes, those were super cool, and like running that practice thing in my basement was like really really cool. But I was like, well, this isn't what I want to do like long term with it, and so I think everyone's got to find their thing, but like there's so much passion and so much of that is built up right now, and like there are just other outlets to put it in than flying to Utah and going
yeah.
driving across five
That's not
states in
actually
order
that's
to
not
do
actually
it.
growing the sport.
Right. So I just
Teaching your neighbor how to play. You know, that neighbor that you're already interacting with.
yeah.
That's gonna grow the sport.
Yeah. So I just think there are other avenues to put into that, and again, I'm just applauding all the people that have chosen to go that route with the amount of content coming out. Like it's been a major upgrade, and certainly all the stuff that came out of HTR was just like, hey, let's make this like much more edited, like actually have a layout, actually put a YouTube thumbnail clip up. Like it's just kind of like slowly raising the bar of like what we expect our content to be, and
It's
I think
definitely
that's
not
good
my
too.
take, and I apologize because I don't know whose take it was, but like Ryder being like the best thing that's happened to the sport in the past however long is a great take.
Yeah.
Um, Hopefully, I'll get to meet him in
I know.
2021 or 2022.
I'd like to meet the kid too on multiple levels. Like I looked at all the stuff
Never
that he
across the
did.
net though. Not
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that well, so here's the thing. Like I want to stand behind a reverse cut so bad because I mean, I've shared it pretty vocally on this podcast. Like it doesn't seem like it's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
meta breaking to me. I think that like if I
You
stood
should get
behind it for a
touches in.
day, I'd be fine.
Absolutely.
But I want to I'm just kind of talking out of my ass until I actually do it. So like that part I'm looking forward to.
Hmm.
Um, but I look to him and how he put together the podcast and how he edited this together and how he edited that, and
Yeah, he's
that was kind of
definitely put a lot of other creatives on notice of raising the bar. So I definitely appreciate that, and I'm already seeing in a lot of the other stuff that's coming out, your stuff included.
yeah. No, I
So
was like, well, I can't put out
it's
worse
enjoyable.
stuff. Like I gotta
Yeah.
I gotta at least attempt to compete here.
That's kind of why I'm like not going to put stuff out. I was like I'm not a creative type. Like if anybody ever have watched any of my streams, it was like, hey, we're going to look at a Google sheet on the screen share, and I'm going to like kind of scroll around. You might be able to see part of the screen, and I I don't have any chat in the window. We're not using Streamlabs. My laptop
Yeah.
is 45 years old. I'm like, I think I just have to retire. I have to retire from this. Could it be a Dylan retire where I come back in 2021 with a good laptop? I won't promise anything.
Yeah, who
But
knows?
it's not looking good for Ben because I am too much of a goof to want to sit down and do any of that editing work.
Yeah, I mean it like it all starts somewhere. Like streaming
Hmm.
was really complicated when I started, and now that I've built it all up, like I pretty much just hit go and I'm ready to do it.
Absolutely.
And when I need to build something really quickly, like I redesigned this podcast layout
Hmm.
after the first three because I looked at them on YouTube and I was like, this looks kind of cheap. So I was like, all right, we're gonna try this and do it. And I built that in like in under an hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, don't let don't let the idea that like if you're out there listening and you're thinking like, oh, well, if I have to produce content that good, I may as well not start. Like, just start somewhere. It's going to be
Yeah,
okay.
that's fair.
But
I
but
mean,
but
at the
but
end of
but,
the
but
day,
always aspire to something, you know?
yeah, you got to figure out what makes you excited, and if getting the podcast out makes you excited, or if getting the YouTube video out makes you excited, do that.
Yeah.
And if eating a lot of ice cream makes you excited, call me.
Yeah. How is
I've got notes.
yeah? Well, so you also paired a lot of your spike ball traveling with ice cream eating. You're kind of an ice cream connoisseur. Have you
I
been
wouldn't
able
give
to
myself that
try
much
local
credit.
ice creams here? Are
Yeah,
they
that's
Uber Eatsing
that's
those
a
or no?
That's a really good question. I know I didn't put it in the show notes for what we should talk about, but around when things got canceled was what, like Marchish, and then it was like April was rolling around, and
Yeah.
One of the first tournaments I was going to play with my expected partner Josh was going to be in Columbus, where, if anybody doesn't know, they have some phenomenal ice cream at Grater's in the greater Columbus, Cincinnati areas. But they ship nationwide. So this is a little plug. I've got a couple pints in my freezer right now, actually. We've done some batch ships from places like Grater's and a couple other spots that are very, very yummy. And so some of my flying money has gone to that. Ezra has spent a lot of his flying money on shipping and ice cream to try from some different places.
I mean, you're coming out in the black, honestly. So
if you need, we're coming out in the black, and we're eating like more ice cream than we would have eaten if we were just traveling around. So that's nice. But yeah, we're not really doing much local stuff here. The local area doesn't have a ton in the way of like solid creameries. And the other big thing has been we're not like going out all that often. So like the idea, like when I first heard of like restaurants reopening, the idea of like a creamery being open didn't make sense to me, because I was like, how could, I'm not saying that like people aren't getting their like livelihoods from them, but I was like, how can that be essential? Like, I understand that like ice cream might be essential for like Ben, but
yeah,
people like, if you could just get like a dinner meal or a lunch meal, like that's like essential food. We should have like those restaurants open so you can like deliver food and have takeout, curbside pickup, what have you. But like, you're telling me people can just like go get like a brownie sundae for like $10 at a scoop shop? Like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well,
so
see,
as much as I'm trying to support the other local businesses, it's like we're gonna ship our ice cream or maybe get some from the grocery store, not add like more interactions to our life.
See, but now you say that, and like you could definitely make the same exact story except fill in Dunkin' Donuts, and I would be so sad if I couldn't. Was like I'm going to like visit my parents and socially distance on our patio. Like I need to pick up some Dunkin' in my life, and I'm driving through. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going in,
right,
but
yeah.
But
still, yeah.
But like, yeah, is coffee essential?
I think that's important.
I'd argue yes.
Everyone's got their lines on what the risks are. The risks are all the same for all the same activities that people are doing, right? If I go get Dunkin', it's the same risk as you getting drive-through, but the benefits not the same at all. I loathe coffee, so we're coming to different endpoints, and that's fine. Not just like doing the mindless and being like, I don't know, I'll try coffee today. Like, why not? It's probably not a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
Ice cream is definitely our non-negotiable.
Yeah. Well, and I entirely agree. I actually listened to a podcast on this, and it was the idea that like everyone is, assessing their risk right now, and some people are more strict in some areas and less strict in others because it's what they value and stuff like that. And so so the risk is more worth it to them. The one thing that I just want to say is like, I mean, again, between the two of us, like we know that like Spikeball is basically essential to our lives, but it's just not actually essential when it boils down to it. Like all of these trips,
I could not agree more.
Even
Everyone's
with this
a
being
luxury to me.
right, like even with my sponsorships and pursuing this as an actual career, like these weekend trips are non-essential fun, and I just want everyone who's considering going to tournaments right now to just think about that. Just think about it. I'm not telling you what you got to do with it, but like think about the fact that like this isn't essential. It might feel like it is, but it's just not.
Yeah. I know with some of the East Roundnet messaging, it's exactly that. Is like anybody who's reading anything from East Roundnet, go give them a follow if you're not.
Yeah.
But like no one's reading that stuff and is like, I hate Roundnet. Like I can't stand it. I never want to play. So it's like we're all on the same page there, and I think you put it super, super well there. So I appreciate that. I won't try to drag my feet on it too much longer.
No, for sure. I just wanted to keep it somewhat Roundnet related.
You tied it back super well. Yeah, I mean, I don't see how ice cream isn't Roundnet related. I'll actually give you a little note. So last summer Spike, you remember this well. You beat us in the third place match. For those who don't know, Do a Barrel Roll. Do a Barrel Roll had kind of a day. It was hilarious.
You did. You guys did have a day, and you played us really well in the 3-4 game too.
But Ezra, we would disagree, but of course we lost.
Well, yeah.
But Ezra and I, of course, played a lot of tournaments last year, and there was, I forget what the exact inciting moment was, but we had a discussion about, hey, let's eat like super healthy like leading up to a tournament, just like see what that does for us. And a couple of things. So I'll tie in like the loop link here is like I track a lot of my sleep and activity on like a fitness tracker, and so
I'm on it too, baby.
Yeah, so represent and that whole week, looking back on it, eating like super healthy, like not basically just like cutting out like ice cream after dinner, basically just like eating like normal like veggies, fruits, and such, and then just being like, let's just not have ice cream for dessert, and did that for like the week leading up to Summer Spike. And day of Summer Spike, I felt I think a little bit less than like myself. Like I felt like below par, and like we agreed like we didn't play the way that we thought we could, and we're like, that was terrible. We should definitely eat ice cream because our body is definitely fueled by ice cream. So you might not be an ice cream eater if you're listening to this, but you're an ice cream eater and you play round net, and that's a normal thing. Your body's probably used to having some ice cream to digest and deal with. So you're fueled by ice cream when you're playing round net, and that is why, Christopher, it is super, super related to talk about Graders and all the other ice cream places out there that are fueling my round net training in quarantine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, like playing these tournaments takes a ton of calories. And like, if you're just going to cut off a main source of your calories and only like, if you're not supplementing that with anything, then like you're actually just under eating before a tournament. And I had to reckon with that too, of like, all right, it's like I'm flying in super late, and at the airport, there's like only a McDonald's open, but I'm going to land at like, 12:30 p.m. and I'm going to go to someone's house, and then I'm going to go to sleep, and then I got to wake up at, 7:30 and then play this tournament. Like the healthy choice is to eat McDonald's because you have to fuel your body, because you have to have some fuel in the tank. And I'm sure you're seeing that with like your Whoop numbers and stuff like that. I remember the first practice that I played with this, I came home and looked at the results, and I just about fell over. I was like,
you probably thought it was a typo or something.
I was like, how am I burning this many calories? Like, this is crazy. And then, I did like a normal 2-hour practice, and I burned like how many calories? 1,800 calories or something
in
stupid.
2 hours?
Yeah, 1,600 calories. I don't know. It was something like just stupid, and my heart rate was crazy, and my strain score was 18, which is like the low end of like you're really pushing it. And I was like, but I play for 6 hours a day at these tournaments, and sometimes there's co-ed on Sunday, and like and I do it every weekend. So like, I'm sure I'm not treating my body very well, and like I've been trying to put recovery a little bit higher. But food's a part of that. Absolutely. Like you have to give yourself food. Like, I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
Like I think one high profile thing that people might remember is the Olympics did a thing on Michael Phelps's diet, like leading up to his like races and stuff, and he was eating like 10,000 calories a day, and he was eating like chocolate chip pancakes. And it's because like, you want to eat 10,000 calories in a day, like it's got to not be entirely like the cleanest thing in the entire world. Like the boy needs some chocolate chip pancakes because he's burning it. Like
absolutely.
You got to.
You said, what was your diet you were working on? You said you were working on like 3,000 calories at some point in your life, and it's like, dude, you knock half of that out with a pint of ice cream, like a third of that out, like just crush a pint of ice cream, bam.
Yeah.
Calories, like you're done, you're set.
Yeah, no, I think when I started my cut with Kathy for like, so you start with like the high end of your calories, and then you're slowly cutting them down. I think I started at 3,600. It was tough to eat that much. But then you cut down to 3,200, and you're like, oh my God, like that's a huge difference only getting 3,200. And then I think the last week I was eating like super clean, and I got down to like 2,800 calories, which is still a lot. I'm sure most people don't eat 2,800 calories, but like I'm for sure eating 3,000 every single day. Like I have to, otherwise I'm just dead. So like you got to throw some ice cream in there. You got to throw some chicken nuggets in there. Like it's just easier. You have to have some barbecue sauce that just has a lot of carbs in it to just like get you going. Might need to drizzle some olive oil on that.
I think it was, it was definitely the tournament that you and Drucker played in Nashville, and you guys beat Kenny and Zach. Point Loma way back when. That tournament, I flew
Drucker almost died
like at late night. And for breakfast I was like, oh man, I didn't really plan. I've got a Cliff Bar. That'll probably power me for 6 hours around it, right? Like 300 calories, we're good. And all morning I made like one like competitive serve, and I had like gentleman serve in pool play because I was looking around like, hey, everything muscular like feels fine, but I don't get it. And then like midway through bracket play, and we're just getting like smacked. We lost to Point Loma that day, and I was like, man, like maybe we could like compete with these guys, but I don't get it. I have nothing in my body. What is going on?
Yeah. No, I mean those things are real. Like I remember back in the
Right.
day, I was drinking protein shakes at tournaments because I had this weird thing in 2017 especially where like I just couldn't eat the day of tournaments. I'd like throw food in my mouth and just like gag. So like the only things I could eat were like fruit. I could
I
eat
think
like watermelon or I could like chug a protein
yeah,
shake. And
I
so I
think
was
I'm
just trying to
lucky.
get carbs in me.
I'm lucky. I think I'm actually very good at being able to hold food. Like I'm a big just PB&J guy. Like give
Yeah.
me a sandwich, give me like granola bars. But my biggest problem at tournaments isn't getting the food in, it's taking the time to get the food in at appropriate intervals between games and not
Right.
just gabbing with my friends and like doing goofy stuff.
Yeah.
I think like I'm going to tournaments and like, yeah, I'm trying to compete, but also I'm just way too distracted and having fun. Just catching up with people and seeing what's going on, or messing around with some serves between games, and definitely not treating it completely appropriately as far as like, hey, like I am an athlete and I need to show up and do the warm up and eat at these
Mhm.
intervals. And so definitely over the last year, like getting back into it, which is hilarious now. I get to practice taking my even years off again.
Yeah.
I just like
What a
doing that a
bummer.
little more intentionally with how I'm managing my fitness, how I'm managing you mentioned recovery and sleep, has been like really really cool to try to put the whole picture together. Where for most of my college years when I first started playing, it was like, oh, I just gotta like train harder and like I gotta like work on this one little skill, and not appreciating like if I had a slightly better diet, I'll just like get that touch on that ball because I'm that much quicker,
Right.
and all those little pieces that absolutely come together. When people talk about like what's the most important skill, it's like I don't know. If you fly in at midnight and you get 5 hours of sleep because you stayed up till two talking to your buddies from the other state that you never see, like I think that's going to be your biggest improvement.
Yeah, I mean, it's an option, but you have to understand the trade-off of it. And like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. And again, like the game was just different back then. Like I treated my body like absolute shit every single weekend in 2016. Probably the most successful season I've ever had. But I mean, we were drinking after every tournament and
Yeah,
like to way too much. And eating absolute crap and staying up all night and not sleeping. And I mean, there were tournaments in 2016 like that I literally don't remember like the finals because I was like blacking in and out and like throwing up and like severely dehydrated. Like probably should have gone to the hospital for one of those, but didn't. But yeah, like yeah, just treating yourself a little bit better, like it goes a long way. And especially
yeah,
like we've
it
seen
extends
all the
well beyond round it. Surprisingly, just
yeah,
wait,
right. Yeah, no, and your whole body just feels better. I mean,
life gets a lot better.
yeah, I mean, so we mentioned the Whoop, and for anyone that isn't a Whoop person or hasn't heard of it, it's a fitness tracker, but it's not like a Fitbit. Like it doesn't like count your steps because, like, frankly, like I don't care how many steps I take in a day. I doubt you do either. But it's basically tracking like your fitness and your recovery over time. And so it's using your heart rate variability to determine the strain that you put on your body. And then it gives you a recovery score based on how you like sleep around that. So sleep as a recovery device. It's got some, tips and stuff with like food and, the amount of calories you should
Yeah,
be eating
how
and
long
stuff
have you
like
had
that
it now?
too.
I'm curious, like what kind of
I think
insights you've made thus far.
I think I'm under 2 months, but over a month. So I've unlocked all the things. Like it slowly, gives you your weekly report,
Yeah,
then
it
your
gives you
monthly
some trends
report.
about yourself, right?
Well, yeah, I basically learned that I am a efficient sleeper while I'm sleeping, but I'm super bad at going to sleep. So I spend a lot of
Gotcha.
time like I'll spend 10 hours in bed to get 8 hours of sleep. And I'm trying to be better about that. That one's still tough. But with
You did it like
quarantine,
it take a long time to like your first hour is just like tossing and turning or
well,
something like that.
Well, it's just, it's me watching Netflix trying to get tired and then it's me throwing on a podcast and tossing and
Yeah.
turning then for another 45 minutes. But then once I'm asleep, I'm good because I always thought like, man, I just don't sleep like soundly. I thought that was the problem. That's not it. Um,
Yeah.
but also like I just didn't realize the amount of strain I was putting on my body. I was like, yeah, I remember like playing 3 sports in high school during the summer and then coming home and just getting like a normal amount of sleep and like not stretching or not doing anything and just being fine. Like
Yeah, kids are unreal.
right. Like, I guess I'm just old now, but I'm like, yeah, I should probably like care a little bit. And so like my recovery scores get better if I like stretch afterwards, and they get better if I, eat appropriately and fuel my body. And
Yeah.
so I've just like I've come to care a lot about that. And also just like some things I think like, oh, that wasn't that strenuous. Like, but then it's just added up over time. And I'm like, oh, I did go for like a 4-hour walk, like in the woods.
Yeah. Sun's beating down.
Right. Like I don't feel that bad, but like my strain score is higher. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I probably did burn a lot of calories here. Like I should probably like take it a little bit easier and like, or maybe not like do some super hard workout immediately afterwards just because I can. So I've been kind of managing my strain load, and I've been seeing rapid gains, like for sure. I'm just training smarter, and so I'm not lifting as many days as I did, but I'm lifting on very appropriate days.
Yeah,
And
I hear
by
you.
managing that strain, like my body's reacting really well. So that's been like my favorite part of the experience. What about you? Because you had it for longer, and you had the wearable on your bicep last year,
Yeah,
right?
I got into it. So I think you mentioned you'd like been following the product for a while. I also
Oh,
followed
like
it for a while.
yeah.
I picked it up right as I was starting PT last, like January-ish, um, just to see like what it looked like for me to get in shape. Um, and yeah, the biggest thing I noticed was like I was a horrendous sleeper. So I've made just really big leaps and bounds in providing myself time to go to sleep. And the past few months have been challenging in lots of different ways where I've had my ups and downs. But on the whole, the biggest thing I've worked on a lot is that late night ice cream, trying to push it up as early as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So my body isn't trying to digest and sleep at the same time,
Yeah.
which like looking back in college, like the number of times I'd have like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., just crush a pint of ice cream and be like, this is fine. Like I can spike all day on the quad tomorrow, or I can go play in an ultimate tournament or whatever it might be. Like it was just like, maybe I could, but I definitely didn't need to put that kind of strain on my body. And I probably would have just been better for it if I didn't do that kind of stuff. So yeah, not trying to change too much about what I do, but trying to put it in the right order, right sequence so that, I'm like, making those informed choices about it. I think the other big thing has been I played a little bit with intermittent fasting,
Oh,
just
really?
to like just
Do
to
you like
force
it?
myself to really cut off my like late night snacking where I'd like just cut myself off.
Well, yeah.
I liked it I liked it. I got over it. I think the big thing was I just like started my like day later. Like I would not really eat like a breakfast, or I'd have like a late breakfast or just do 2 meals. And it was interesting to try. Helped me cut a little bit, which was cool. But ultimately I'm too big on popping out of bed and just wolfing down cereal, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We're doing all sorts of baked goods here. We're doing like, we still got our pumpkin bread stash from this pumpkin spice season last year, which is very fortunate. And now pancakes are a thing, what
Mm-hmm.
have you. So it's hard to say no to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you also up your breakfast game amidst quarantine, where you're like, well, I don't have to like go into the office immediately, so I can like grab more than a power bar. So I'm gonna like like I've never
oh
eaten more
gosh, yeah.
pancakes in my life.
Oh
I make
yeah.
avocado toast every day.
hmm
Or pancakes. Like my breakfast game is like on
The
fleek
past
right
week, the
now.
past week and a half, I was like, wait a minute. I can make pancakes very easily. What have I been doing for the past however long? Like
Yeah, right.
I should obviously make pancakes all the time. So yeah, it'll be like, oh, I've got a meeting, and like I got to start my day in like an hour, but I could just make pancakes. Like I've got time. I don't need to commute for an hour. I can just make pancakes for an hour instead.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah. I forgot you've picked up like massive time saves on just your commute alone.
yeah, yeah. I'm not complaining about that. Yeah, obviously it's the weird trade off has just been the living at work or working at home.
Yeah.
Again, very small problem to have, but still something that is just as at the individual level, uh, a new experience to manage. So
Yeah.
that's had its ups and downs.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of stuff, but I want to ask you at least one more thing here, and then of course you
Go
can throw
for
in
it.
anything that you want to throw in before we go here too. What is your one non-round net spike ball related recommendation right now to anyone listening.
And that could be like life-wise or like content, like just any recommendation on anything.
It could be anything. It could be a book. It could be a podcast. It could be
Oh
a
gosh.
tidbit of knowledge. It could
I feel like
be.
I feel like I asked a clarifying question there as if I'm going to give like some inspirational answer, and I'm going to set myself up for failure here. So I'm going to scramble for a moment. Whew.
No,
Oh
take your
man.
time with it. Like definitely no thing. But like, what's like one thing that like I don't know is like making your life right now that is completely non Spikeball related right now? TV show.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Um. Again, trying to. I'm just looking around the room. What do I use? I think things like this have been really really good. So I've had some like regular just like video chatting with some friends, and I think that's been super good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's in the context of everybody being in different spaces where people might be more social, less social than I am. People might be seeing more fewer people than I am. So I'd highly recommend that. And I think if I can give one more plug, I would definitely just plug whatever your comfort food is. Prioritize it. So it might
Yeah.
not be ice cream. Usually it's not ice cream for people, but give yourself something that that you know that you like, whether it's a comfort food or some other thing you consume, show or otherwise. And that's my terribly non-inspirational big answer on that.
I
Gosh,
mean,
what are you throwing out there? Is there something like a podcast that's on your mind that you if I can throw the question back at you?
oh sure. No, well, so I guess what I'm thinking of is I just read a really good book. It's called Everything Is Fucked, a book about hope. So
Oh yeah, I saw you posting about that.
yeah, so highly recommend it. I'm actually gonna draw a name on Instagram in just a second because I said I would send the book to someone who wanted it. I was like, this book is just everything. It's great. The author of it's amazing. I heard him on a podcast and he was talking about the book, and I was like, this book sounds great. Way surpassed expectations. And if you have heard of, he wrote another really famous book. It was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Um,
Yeah, I definitely gifted that at some point.
Yeah, so I haven't read that, but I went on to read this one and it was great. So highly recommend that. And then just in general, like just get on other podcasts. Like I know some people like are just getting introduced to the podcast life through RoundNet. They're like, oh, I don't listen to podcasts, but people are putting out podcasts, so I guess I'll listen to the podcast. Like
Yeah.
podcasts are great. They're just I literally listen to like at least 3 hours of podcasts a day, if not like 8 to 10, depending what I'm doing. Like
I would love to be able to listen to that many conversations and listen to that many new educational topics too. I
well,
wish.
yeah, well, like so much of what I do is just so passive. Like I listen to it while I make breakfast. Like I listen to it while
Yeah.
I drive. I listen to it while I edit videos. I listen to it while I shower. Like literally just everything. I just constantly have them going on. So like go explore the world of podcasts. Like type in something that you like right now and you're interested in and do that. Like go find your favorite like comedian's podcast. Go find just someone you like they probably have a podcast about it. Like they really do. You like Game of Thrones? There's a zillion Game of Thrones podcasts. Just like get invested in them. They're really cool. Try them out. So I just recommend podcasts in general. And
Fair enough.
if you're looking for a place to start that's at least productive, like get your news through podcasts. It's better than watching cable news. Um, it has less of the theatrics, and
How
it
many of
just
the
gets to
people
the
that
point.
listen to this podcast are paying for their cable if they are watching cable news? Is the question I would ask.
I would hope zero. I watch
They
all
might
my
have
cable
cable
news
through
clips.
someone else though. But I
Yeah,
thinking
I
your demo is mostly people who are in the podcast game for free. So
right. Well,
get your free podcasts.
at
Go get
least
them.
yeah. I mean, at least I didn't tell them to put down their newspapers and pick up podcasts. Like at least went back to cable news for them. But yeah, don't get your news from headlines on Facebook.
And
It's not productive in your life. So yeah, go find them. Go subscribe to the rally when that comes back. Just get on the life of
oh gosh, yeah. Oh,
podcasts. They're great.
I want to see Ezra. Ezra's got an idea maybe for a podcast. I want to see if he pursues it. So I'll chirp at him and encourage him to go do that because Ezra's
Yes.
much more of a creative doer, more of a doer in general. So hopefully he does that because that would be very fun and funny, at least for me, but probably for lots of other people too.
Yeah. Yeah. Go out, digest content, make content, do good things. And definitely read a little bit. I like picking up books over the last year has been something that I've really enjoyed. Pick up an actual book. Actual books are great. Yeah, I think that's it. Anything else you wanted to touch on, or?
Oh man, I feel pretty good. I'm sure we could talk for a while, but
Yeah.
definitely I can just put a pin in it. And I'll try to hit you up some other time. All I'll say as a parting is we should play some online Switch sometime.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely need to do that. I updated my Switch about a month ago because I reset up all my streaming stuff so that it's just like permanently set up and I don't have to unplug anything or do anything anymore. There's so
That's
many
nice.
cables going on here, it's crazy. But I had to update my Switch and I haven't even used it since I updated it. So I definitely need to do that. But we should get into some Smash and
Absolutely.
and do that more.
Here. But yeah, otherwise, pleasure talking with you. And I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. All right. Well, everyone go follow Do a Barrel Roll on Instagram. Do.a.barrel roll, right?
Yeah, dot roll. There's dots between every word. And if you go there, DM Ezra and tell him to start his podcast idea.
Yes. Even though you don't know what it is, tell him that we need Ezra in your life.
Just take my word that it'll be better than any of the content I've been putting out in quarantine, which is, again, low bar.
Low bar. All right. Well, thanks again for hopping on, dude. This was great. Good to catch up, and hopefully I'll see you in 2021.
Oh gosh, let's chat before then.
Yeah, let's chat before then. But I'll CC you then, you know.
Touche.
All right, bye, man.
Thanks, Chris.
See ya.